So I stole a book from my dad's house, like way, way, way back when. I mentioned in other videos he's a hoarder, so I don't feel bad about it because it would have just disappeared or been covered in mold or had like silverfish or something in it. But there's a poem in here that actually helped me deal with what was happening back then. And so, my dad, actually very much like my most recent ex, would get very frustrated that I wouldn't just like agree with him. So a lot of like my punishment, which was really just him also like hitting me, was very much about trying to make me change my mind. And so I had come across this poem at some point when I was young. And so he'd be like wailing on me, and I would just be like so certain in myself that what was happening was wrong and that he wasn't gonna like change my mind. Like I wasn't gonna cave. You know what I mean? Like I was gonna endure because I knew better. And it looks like, man, this book is actually really old. When is this book from? I have no idea, but it actually looks really old. Okay, so it's called On Children. Let's see, it's page 17. Looks like this printing is, so it's copyright 1923. And then this book is from 1951. I love books so much. My dad was a librarian at one point. So I love having the physical. I know people love their Kindles, but I like books I can touch, smell. Okay, so On Children by Kahlil Gibran, and we're just rolling with this experimentation while I read you a poem. I'm not going to be very good at it, and it's fine. We're just going to be flexible. Here we are. Okay. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, and this is the part that got me, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. For they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children are, as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sets his mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable." So it was actually really interesting when I myself became a parent and, kind of on the other side of that poem. And, I am very grateful to my father. He was an AA, so he really was striving towards self-awareness. He was striving towards making amends. Sometimes abuse goes so deep that you don't even recognize it. He was just self-aware enough for me to have independent thinking and be able to read something like this and make a decision for myself about it, which I'm actually really grateful for. So that when I myself became a parent, watching my kid do things that are totally different from, how I was or what I would do. He's, I marvel at him so often. His confidence and, his absolute surety that, whatever he's doing is fine. It's the right thing to do. And I remember myself being so conflicted. I was just like, is this the right thing? I got to think about it. So he's had a very different experience. And also when I was in that place of, so I've just gotten out of an abusive relationship. I've gotten myself into another one. I know it's bad. And I'm trying to clean things up, and I'm, I'm with this person and he's like cheating on me, and I'm like losing my mind, and I'm just like on the razor. I'm operating past my limit. I'm like the RPM on a car that's just revving so hard all the time. And I was trying to keep it together and not like physically lash out at my kid or be upset at some normal thing that, a kid might do. And quite frankly, this may be the most important thing I've ever read in my entire life. The idea that you don't own your children, So when I was a kid, I knew my dad didn't own me, right? His job was to help me launch, to be the arrow that flies into the future, I guess. And then when I became a parent, you have, they're becoming their own little person with their own little ideas, and perspective on the world, and if you're coming at, your child from like a very possessive standpoint, first of all, you're going to be frustrated because that's, that is a recipe for horrible dissatisfaction as a parent. Like sometimes, and there's personality disorder people that do this, but there's also like child victims of abuse who become adults, who have kids because they think their kids are going to fill their need for love that they never got. And ooh boy, that's a recipe for a hot mess. That is, you can't make your kids fulfill your emotional needs. That's the wrong direction. We fulfill theirs, not the other way around. And then there's points where you derive happiness and satisfaction, but the purpose of the connection is not for them to make you happy. So anyone who's making that parenting choice is firstly setting themselves up for unhappiness, but secondly, it's coming at it from a self-focused, self-centered perspective, one in which is the opposite of how it's intended. Our kids don't meet our needs, we meet theirs, but also we don't own them. You can't possess a child. A lot of parents do try to control their kids, make them think the way they want them to think, and part of parenting is teaching them right from wrong. But at some point, all of us, we all did it. We come up and we go, regardless of how good or great or wonderful our parents were, we question, because that's literally part of the process. It's called individuation. We're supposed to do that. And if you're coming from a place of possession, or you're coming from a place of my kid needs to meet my needs, and they start doing that, you're going to feel like grasping and anxious and maybe even frantic, like, oh, I'm losing my connection. Instead of recognizing like the whole purpose is that they become their own people. And quite often, kids will come back around to like the values they were raised with, for example. But, we got to recognize their little, they're their own little people. So I don't know, I know a lot of kids like really, kids who are being abused really resonated with like Matilda, for example, either the movie or the book. Usually, often there's something, that kind of like just hits us just right in childhood that makes us go, oh, I recognize myself in this, or this is making me realize the situation is not good, or I feel seen. So anyway, thank you for letting me read a poem at you, and I hope you're having a great rest of your day.